channel now. At Blind Community Thrift Store on YouTube, and more info about this radio reading service, Navalins, and the Blind Community Thrift Store at www.blindcommunitythriftstore.com. The Blind Community Thrift Store radio reading service will begin shortly. We will be reading local news from around the Southwest Missouri area, Monday through Friday, 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. on YouTube, KSMU, and on the Audio Reader Network at Kansas University. For more information, please visit us at www.blindcommunitythriftstore.com. Please stay tuned as our broadcast will start soon. Please remember to like, comment, and subscribe on our YouTube channel now. At Blind Community Thrift Store on YouTube, and more info about this radio reading service, Navalins, and the Blind Community Thrift Store at www.blindcommunitythriftstore.com. The Blind Community Thrift Store radio reading service will begin shortly. We will be reading local news from around the Southwest Missouri area, Monday through Friday, 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. on YouTube, KSMU, and on the Audio Reader Network at Kansas University. For more information, please visit us at www.blindcommunitythriftstore.com. Please stay tuned as our broadcast will start soon. Please remember to like, comment, and subscribe on our YouTube channel now. At Blind Community Thrift Store on YouTube, and more info about this radio reading service, Navalins, and the Blind Community Thrift Store at www.blindcommunitythriftstore.com. The Blind Community Thrift Store radio reading service will begin shortly. We will be reading local news from around the Southwest Missouri area, Monday through Friday, 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. on YouTube, KSMU, and on the Audio Reader Network at Kansas University. For more information, please visit us at www.blindcommunitythriftstore.com. Please stay tuned as our broadcast will start soon. Please remember to like, comment, and subscribe on our YouTube channel now. At Blind Community Thrift Store on YouTube, and more info about this radio reading service, Navalins, and the Blind Community Thrift Store at www.blindcommunitythriftstore.com. The Blind Community Thrift Store radio reading service will begin shortly. We will be reading local news from around the Southwest Missouri area, Monday through Friday, 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. on YouTube, KSMU, and on the Audio Reader Network at Kansas University. For more information, please visit us at www.blindcommunitythriftstore.com. Please stay tuned as our broadcast will start soon. Please remember to like, comment, and subscribe on our YouTube channel now. At Blind Community Thrift
National Pie Day.
There you go. I'd celebrate that.
Guess I'll get me some sweet potato pies today.
Oh man, I was thinking about making a butternut squash pie. I bought this big old butternut squash and I thought, well, I should turn that into a pie.
Stay away from pies and cakes. Dangerous.
The time is 10 a.m.
Whenever you guys are ready.
Thank you for tuning in to the Blind Community Thrift Store radio reading service. My name is Kelly, and I'm here with Melissa. We invite you to listen to our broadcasts both live and on demand. Our live sessions are available on the Blind Community Thrift Store YouTube channel Monday to Friday between 10 a.m. and 12 p.m. each week. Additionally, you can access on-demand content through the Audio Reader Network, which offers a wide range of audio materials for the visually impaired community. To explore content from the Audio Reader Network, please visit www.reader.ku.edu. The site provides details about accessing content via Amazon Alexa, Audio Reader Network mobile app, and information on receiving a radio to listen to the broadcast by KSMU Radio. All broadcasts are played over KSMU's subcarrier airwaves at 67 kilohertz on 91.1 from 3 p.m. to 5 p.m. Monday through Friday. Contact Audio Reader Network for information on receiving a pre-programmed radio. Anything you want? Just start reading from the Springfield Daily Citizen.
Okay, so our title today from the Springfield Daily Citizen is Poking Around. City knocks down house that neighbor says was a problem. Owner says not his fault. Owner says he spent a lot of money on repairs to the house. City says that since 2023 has not been cooperative. There's a picture of a house that's shown a demolition. It's got the roof out, the bulldozers on the side, has the address on the door, 219. The demolition crew tore down an abandoned house on 219 South Broadway Avenue on Thursday, January 22nd, 2026 in Springfield. The photos by Ellie Freisig. The city Thursday, January 22nd, demolished a depleted home in the West Central neighborhood that neighbors say for years has been a problem property, where squatters live without utilities and deal drugs. They are happy the house is gone, but the owner's not. It's not just a problem for a long, long time and a source of crime and unwanted traffic, says Dwayne Keys, president of the West Central Neighborhood Alliance. Keys has lived in the neighborhood since 2017. He says neighbors have complained to the city and to the owner about the small 2-bedroom, 1-bathroom house for at least a decade. The house was built in 1906 and had 768 square feet. The house has been in this condition for so long where they've just patched it back together. Keys says it doesn't have utilities. They run a generator constantly. They scrap, so there's always piles of appliances and whatever around the yard. Barber says people go to the house to buy drugs and then try to use them near his shop. The property is at 2019 South Broadway Avenue. It's across the street from Pip's Beer Craft and Barber, whose owner is glad to see it knocked down by the city. He lives nearby. In and out traffic day and night, says Aaron Pippin. You can see people walking in and obviously purchasing drugs, constantly cutting through my parking lot and going straight to that house. There's a picture of him sitting in his chair in his business. Aaron Pipps, owner of Pip's Beer Craft and Barber, purchased the property that houses the barbershop in December of 2025, by Ryan Cullins. He says people purchase drugs at the house and then go to the rear of his building to use them. I've had people come directly from that house and try to get in behind my shop, and here I've got alarm and everything, and when the alarm goes off, they start jetting away, Pippin says. That's my problem. I don't want them on my property after they leave that house. As far as the city's concerned, they told us they was going to do something about it years ago, he says. Then the owner of the house act like he was going to fix it and still did nothing with it. Hard to have a logical, straightforward conversation with owner. The owner is Stan Adams, 76 years old, of Springfield. He's a longtime real estate agent in the Springfield, having started with Doral T. Hanks Realtor in 1981. He later worked for Carol Jones Realty and eventually started his own company, Springfield Realty. Keys and Pippin say they both have spoken to Adam in recent years. They tell him that Adam has constantly told them he would fix their property but didn't. We've definitely been in contact with Stan Adam over decades, and prior to my involvement in the neighborhood organization, Keys says, he just seems to be one of those contrary guys and maybe takes even enjoyment in letting the neighborhood suffer. Adam does not live in the West Springfield neighborhood. It's hard to have a logical, straightforward conversation with Stan Keys. Owner, I really do care about this community. He shows the house where there's a picture of the house being bulldozed in the roof. And it looks like they've got the windows repaired that they're trying to fix. Before the house was demolished, Springfield police searched the home for any squatters to make sure no one was hurt. I called Adam and he wanted to meet in person, so he came to the Daily Citizen office where I talked to him for about an hour. You may think I'm coming in here and don't care, but I really do care about this community, Adam tells me. Adam says it's not his fault the property fell into despair. He didn't believe it should be demolished. I think it's the fault that the city did not work with the owners of the property, he says. I asked if there was more than one owner. He says his wife also might be one of the owners. It should have been repaired years ago, Adam says, and there should have been a lot of help along the way, which I did not get the help, including police. He also blames the city for the crime problem at the house in the West Central neighborhood. We have a major gang drug problem going on in this town, he says. I know there's been problems, not just at house, but in the area as a whole for years. I asked him how the gang problem impacted the property at 219 South Broadway Avenue. Once the tenants tore this up so bad, the gangs are homeless or whatever looks for abandoned units, he says. Owner says he spent a lot of money on repairs. There's a house with a neighbor and the police is in the street. She's got her hands up. Jenny Bucci, who has lived on Broadway Avenue for more than 15 years, celebrates as the home the home need to get demolished by the city. She told police officers that she has stories upon stories about people in and out of that house. Photos by Ellie Frystick. Adam tells me that he bought the house at 219 South Broadway Avenue in the mid-1980s. At one point years ago, he says he owned about 55 housing units in the city. Now he owns 5, including the Shamrock Court at 2238 College Street. Over the years, Adam says he has replaced the siding on the house at 219 South Broadway and put in new doors and new windows. I spent a lot of money on it over the years, he says. He tells me he doesn't have money to do the repairs the city now wants and that his health has not been good. In addition, he says, although he owns the house, city utilities has not always notified him when renters stop paying the utility bill and the utilities are shut off. Adam tells me I'm blaming him for the depleted conditions of this property. It's all Stan, the landlord, he says. That's what you're saying. No, I tell him, it's what the neighborhood is saying. City says owner has not been cooperative. I asked Martin Gugel, the city's director of building development services, about house at 219 South Broadway Avenue. Why is the city demolishing the house? Since the case began back in 2023, there's been a hearing and finding of fact, July 23rd, that required the owner to repair or demo, or the city would demo. In the 2 years since, we attempted to work with the owner, but to date, the violations are still present. Demolition is scheduled for this Thursday, January 22nd. Has the owner been cooperative in fixing problems at 219 South Broadway Avenue? No. The owner has applied for and been issued permits since the hearing in 2023. However, very little work has been done and the violations remain. If the building is demolished, who owns the land? The current owner will still own the property, and the demolition costs will be assessed to the property. Multiple police and fire calls to the house. I asked for a record at the trips made to the house at 219 South Broadway Avenue by police and fire for the year 2025 and early January 26. Here they are. January 13, 2026, assist person. January 12, 2026, assist person. January 8th, 2026, check building. January 5th, check person. October 5th, 2025, check person. October 3rd, 2025, check person. September 8th, 2025, check well-being. September 7th, 2025, check well-being. May 23rd, 2025, emergency medical assistance and assault and robbery. May 15, 2025, a house fire. April 16, 2025, a warrant search. March 12, 2025, check building and abandoned 911 call. February 25, 2025, fire outside and check vehicle. February 11, 2025, a warrant search. January 16, 2025, traffic violation, non-moving. This is Poking Around column number 336. Steve Pokin writes the Poking Around and the Answer Man columns for the Springfield Daily Citizen. He also writes about criminal justice issues. He can be reached at Spokane at sgfcitizen.org. His office line is 417-837-3661. More by Stephen Polk.
For this week's obituaries from the Springfield News-Leader, Thursday, January 22nd, 2026, Larry Dale Allhands of Battlefield, Missouri, 79, passed away January 21st, 2026. Arrangements provided by Green Lawn Funeral Home East. Wednesday, January 21st, 2026, Sharon Delane Barber, 83, of Oak Grove, Missouri. She was born in St. Louis on September 9th, 1942. She was a 1960 graduate of Sullivan High School in Sullivan, Missouri. Michael Albert Moore, 76, of Springfield, Missouri, passed away January 21st. Arrangements provided by Greenfield Funeral Chapel. Tuesday, January 20th, J. Scott Patterson, age 84, of Novato, California, formerly of Springfield, Missouri. He died peacefully on December 23rd, 2025. Saturday, January 17th, Mary Elise Baldwin, age 64, of Neosho, Missouri, lost her courageous battle with cancer. Barbara Mayhew, 80, of Nixa, Missouri, passed away January 14th, 2026. Arrangements provided by Walnut Lawn Funeral Home. And James Donald Scott, age 90, of Springfield, Missouri, passed away at 8 a.m. on Wednesday, January 14th at the Missouri Veterans Home in Mount Vernon, Missouri. Now for some news from the Springfield News-Leader. Former Missouri House Speaker seeks to avoid prison in COVID loan fraud case. Former Missouri House Speaker John Deal, who pleaded guilty last year to wire fraud, is asking a federal judge for leniency as he faces the possibility of years behind bars. Deal admitted in September to defrauding the U.S. Small Business Administration out of $379,900 by obtaining a pandemic loan intended to help struggling small businesses and using the money for personal expenses. Those included payments on a Tesla, an Audi, and a Jeep, as well as pool maintenance, country club dues, mortgage bills, and college tuition for a family member. Wire fraud is punishable by up to 20 years in prison and a $250,000 fine, or both. There's a picture of him actually behind the podium during his time in the Missouri House of Representatives. In a sentencing memorandum filed earlier this month by Deal's attorneys, he asks for a non-custodial sentence, meaning a punishment that would not include prison. Deal argues that prison is unnecessary because he is a first-time offender who repaid the full amount before sentencing. His lawyers say his guilty plea, acceptance of responsibility, and early restitution demonstrate genuine remorse. They also cite his age, health issues, work history, and family responsibilities, including caring for aging parents. 3 pages of the sentencing memo are redacted. Deal was originally scheduled to be sentenced on Friday, but both his attorneys and federal prosecutors asked for a delay. The stated reason for the postponement was largely redacted from the court filing, aside from a line saying, "The parties anticipate that they will require an additional 30 to 45 days to conclude the investigation." A spokesman for the U.S. Attorney's Office could not comment on the investigation that warranted the sentencing delay. At the height of his political career, Deal was arguably Missouri's most powerful elected official. That ended in 2015 when the Kansas City Star reported that he had exchanged sexually inappropriate messages with a 19-year-old House intern. Deal initially refused to resign, but stepped down after losing support within his party. After leaving office, Deal largely stayed out of public view before reemerging in 2018 as an advocate for a company he co-owned that sought to mine cobalt in Missouri's Boot Heel. He later became embroiled in controversy and independence when the FBI began scrutinizing a contract to demolish the power plant in Missouri City owned by Independence Power and Light. Deal was an attorney for the company that won the contract despite bidding twice as much as the other company seeking the job. A federal grand jury issued subpoenas seeking records related to the deal, including minutes from closed independent city council meetings, and investigators interviewed multiple city officials. Only one person has faced any criminal charges connected to the Independence contracts, attorney and former Jackson County official John Carnes, who was sentenced to a 21-month prison sentence for tax evasion. A Kansas City businessman named Joseph Campbell, who was connected to the utility contract, testified under oath that the FBI questioned him about Deal, whom he accused of trying to create a fake attorney-client relationship in order to keep from having to hand over certain documents the government had requested through a subpoena. Deal denied Campbell's accusations at the time. Campbell was indicted by a federal grand jury in Kansas last month for federal wire fraud and money laundering involving pandemic-era loan programs. Deal is now scheduled to be sentenced February 19th, though his attorney has asked that the hearing be moved to March due to a scheduling conflict.
Okay, from the Springfield News-Leader, we have Springfield, CU, Greene County prepares for snow and extreme cold. The story was updated to include preparations by the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers. There's a picture of a house with snow and icicles. See what makes pipes vulnerable to freezing and how to protect them. Freezing temperatures put water pipes at higher risk of freezing. See which pipes are most vulnerable and what you can do to prevent the damage. As of Thursday night, January 22nd, forecasts are predicting that Springfield could see up to 14 inches of snow this weekend, combined with extremely low temperatures. With winter weather expected to move in Friday night, local agencies are beginning preparations to minimize impact to local roadways and operations. How is the city of Springfield preparing? The city's Public Works Department is preparing all trucks and equipment to be ready to respond starting at midnight Friday going into Saturday. Kristen Millam, the city's senior communication coordinator, said via email that the department will activate 12-hour crews to maintain 24-hour response coverage. The Public Works Street Operations Division operates 32 snow trucks and utilizes roughly 65 staff members during snow events. We will continue to monitor conditions as they develop and are prepared to modify our response, Millam said. There's a snowplow truck on Kansas Expressway, a snowplow on South Campbell Avenue on Friday, January 10th, after several inches of snow fell on the Springfield area overnight. This is by Nathan Papes, Springfield News-Leader. Springfield has nearly 700 lane miles of city streets that are designated as snow routes based on major thoroughfares, traffic volumes, locations of hospitals and other emergency services, schools, major employment centers, and other factors. The snow route map can be found on the city's website. To protect concrete bridges, the city also designates bridge routes to reduce the impact of salt on the surfaces and structures. Instead of salt, bridge routes will have Iron Mountain trap rocks spread across them along with the spraying of magnesium chloride. As of Thursday, the city had roughly 8,200 tons of salt in storage. How is Greene County preparing? Adam Humphrey, Greene County Highway Department Administrator, said the county also plans to start its winter operations around midnight on Friday and continue all day Saturday and Sunday. He said the crews will be working around the clock with all hands on deck to ensure efficient response. With drier, fluffier snow expected, Humphrey was optimistic that removal should be easier. The extreme cold temperatures would make salt treatment less effective. The very low temperatures also create a greater risk of mechanical mishaps. I would anticipate in this event we'll be doing more removal work than just treating, he said. I think the treatment will be less effective, so most of our focus will be on just getting it off the road surfaces. Springfield Greene County Office Emergency Management is having conversations with different local organizations to coordinate responses. Nicolette Zangara, OEM Public Information Officer, said the office will evaluate throughout the weekend whether the Public Safety Center needs to be activated to ensure a more cohesive emergency response. She said activation depends on the wide scale of impacts to the greater community, which in this case of a snowstorm could include a spike in car crashes or widespread power outages. Sangara described the role of OEM as being the center of the spiderweb of local agency response, ensuring that needs are addressed effectively and efficiently and resources go to the right place. What is City Utilities doing to prepare for the snow and cold? City Utilities is preparing for snow and bitter cold impacts by having extra crews available across electric lines, power generation, and other operational divisions in case of any disruptions to service. CU is reminding customers to keep cabinets open, leave faucets to drip to prevent pipes from freezing, and to keep natural gas safety in mind, report any gas odor immediately. CU Chief Spokesman Jamie Presley said other preparations include ensuring combustion turbines at the James River Power Station are fully prepared for any higher strain on the grid. The turbines are dual fuel, meaning while they primarily run on natural gas, they can also utilize diesel. Presley said in preparation for the weekend, CU is ensuring the diesel tanks are topped off and tankers are scheduled in case more is needed Saturday and Sunday. That preparation includes coordination with the city to ensure roads are clear for tanker trucks to access tanks and refill them if necessary. Snowfall also may impact city utilities transit operations, including routes and schedules. Transit rides should monitor CU's transit social media channels or download the My Ride SGF app for real-time updates. CU will continue to share timely information as conditions change. Updates will be posted on the CU website and social media platforms, and emergency text alerts will be issued if needed. The U.S. Army Corps of Engineers is also preparing to help meet expected peak energy demands by increasing generations at USACE-operated hydropower facilities in the region. Hydropower plants that may be brought online include Table Rock, as well as Beaver, Bull Shoals, Norfolk, and Greers Ferry and the White River Basin, according to the USACE news release. At Table Rock Lake, 3 to 4 units are expected to operate as needed with an estimated 1-foot drawdown. Increased hydropower generation may cause rapid drops in water surface elevations across reservoirs in the White River Basin. Crisis cold weather shelters add capacity. For those facing homelessness, extreme cold can create life-threatening conditions. With the forecast weather approaching, Community Partnership of the Ozarks is activating its severe winter weather plan in order to ensure there is more shelter space available. Emily Fessler is CPO's Continuum of Care Director. She said the activation of the plan means additional shelters will open their doors from Friday night through Sunday night to expand capacity. This means 128 additional beds will be provided than typical crisis cold weather shelters can serve to meet the needs of 311 total individuals and 25 pets. New Day, CPO's New Day Center at 809 North Campbell Avenue, will also be open from 9 a.m. to 7 p.m. Saturday and Sunday for folks to have a warm place to go during the day. In order for the shelters to be able to actually serve to their full capacity, Fessler said additional volunteers are still needed. Volunteers are needed Friday and Sunday nights, as well as during the Saturday and Sunday to assist at New Day. Those interested in volunteer can fill out an online form or contact Fessler directly via email at efessler@cpoozarks.org. Additional information can be found on CPO's website. Material donations needed have already been met by a generous donation of supplies from James River Church, Fessler said. Springfield Greene County Parks Board announces cancellations and closures. The Springfield Greene County Parks Board canceled several events and announced closures of some facilities ahead of this weekend. For updates, visit the Park Board's social media page. Here's what to know. At Brightspeed Ice Park, Fridays 9 p.m. adult open skate is canceled. All other open skate sessions are proceeded as scheduled. Drury 1 hockey games are canceled Friday and Saturday. Drury's D3 Friday hockey is moving to either at 6 p.m. or 7 p.m. game start. Saturday D3 game is canceled. The ice park remains open normal hours. At Valley Watermill Equestrian Center, classes and lessons are canceled from Friday through Monday, resuming at noon on Tuesday, January 27th. At Lake Springfield, Friday's Owl Prowl is postponed until 6 p.m. on Friday, January 30th. Saturday's Winter Twilight Hike is canceled with the next one scheduled for Saturday, February 21st at 5 p.m. Dickinson's Park Zoo will be closed both Saturday and Sunday. Marta Meets covers local government at the News-Leader. Have feedback, tips, or story ideas, contact her at mmieze@newsleader.com.
From the Springfield Daily Citizen, $30 million sales tax allocation could help complete the Springfield Art Museum project. If approved by Springfield City Council, the funding will help complete the expansion and renovation of the Art Museum. Pending approval from the Springfield City Council, $30 million in Spring Forward SGF sales tax revenues could help fund Phase 2 of the expansion and renovation of the Springfield Art Museum. After months of deliberation, the Citizens Advisory Board unanimously recommended the allocation at its January 22nd meeting. The 8-member board is charged with recommending projects for funding from the Spring Forward SGF sales tax, which refers to the half-cent portion of the 3/4-cent tax passed by voters in November 2024 election. If approved by the City Council, the funding would be allocated across 2 years, with $15 million for the project in fiscal year 2027 and $15 million in fiscal year 2028. In addition, private donors have contributed $3.8 million toward Phase 2 of the project. The multifaceted project features public-facing upgrades and behind-the-scenes infrastructure, including expanded gallery space, a new education wing, and a multi-level lobby, as well as new mechanical and HVAC systems, new administrative offices, and a reconfigured loading dock. In total, the project will add about 20,000 square feet to the 50,000 square foot building, which is comprised of several buildings that were added at different times. More information on the project can be found at this link. In recommending lesser option, board hopes private donors can close the gap. The $30 million recommendation was the lesser of two options presented by Nick Nelson, director of the city-owned Art Museum. Combined, the $30 million allocation and $3.4 million in private donation would support a value-engineered version of the project with less classroom and gallery space than was previously proposed. The larger option, at $33.4 million, would combine with the $3.8 million to fully fund the project. While supportive of the larger project, the board did not recommend the larger option and instead suggested the museum try to close the $3.4 million gap through additional private donations. Cliff Smart, former president of Missouri State University and member of the Citizens Advisory Board, expressed confidence that museum leaders would be able to raise an additional $3.4 million, noting that he has had similar experience with public funding. While you're designing this and you've got 6 months to go, find one person to give you $4 million and it absolutely can be done, Smart said at the January 22nd meeting. It's not 100%, it's 85%, and that absolutely someone is going to want to have their name on an amazing transformational building. And so I don't think we're deciding between the value engineering one and the good one. You're going to find a family to fund that difference and close the gap and save $4 million for us to allocate to something else. Board member Andy Peebles also emphasized his support for the larger project and confidence that donors would help close the funding gap. I think everyone here is fully supportive of the entire project, Peebles said. We are putting a lot of faith in the generosity of our community, which I think we've seen time and time again. Kate Francis, a former employee of the Springfield Art Museum, was recently hired as the first executive director of the Friends of the Springfield Art Museum, a nonprofit foundation that helps fundraise for the museum. Springfield Art Museum's renovation project moves forward with a foundation's new leader. Regardless of whether the board recommended $30 million or $33.4 million, Nelson said they were prepared to continue fundraising for operations and endowments. In the meantime, Nelson indicated that they would likely plan for the value-engineered version of the project and could make amendments to the contract as donations come in. We want to get this final phase of the project underway as soon as possible because delays added to the project's overall cost, and ultimately will get a less impactful project at a higher cost essentially, Nelson said. Construction on Phase 1 is currently underway. If and when the City Council approves the recommendation, Nelson said they would immediately re-engage with the design team to begin drafting construction documents for Phase 2. To date, the Art Museum has secured $41.8 million for the project, much of which has been allocated to Phase 1 and earlier work done on museum grounds, including the naturalization of Fast Night Creek and parking lot improvements. Of the $41.8 million, almost 60% comes from state and federal grants and appropriations, private donations, and art museum funds. Nelson hopes to get the project out to bid within 6 months, allowing construction to continue into Phase 2 without skipping a beat. The entire project is expected for completion in early 2028, when the museum celebrates its 100-year anniversary. While split between the 2 years, the $30 million recommendation matches the largest recommendation previously made by the board. $30 million for the Convention and Event Center project, which the City Council later approved. 6 park projects were recommended for $9.3 million in the Spring Forward SGF funding. In addition to the Art Museum allocation, the Citizens Advisory Board also recommended $9.3 million for 6 different park projects in fiscal year 2027 and $75,000 in fiscal year 2026 revenues for the design of a neighborhood node at National Avenue and Bennett Street, which would tie into the Art Museum projects. Recommended allocations include $645,833 for an inclusive playground at McDaniel Park, $3,624,157 for additional pickleball courts at Meter Park, $1.8 million for the Chadwick Flyer Trail from Kissick Avenue to the Trail of Honor, $850,000 for a playground and bald eagle exhibit at the Dickerson Park Zoo, $1,380,736 for the implementation of the Lafayette Master Plan, and $1 million for design, planning, and engineering of the Ungap the Map initiative. 3 of the 6 projects have received or will potentially receive funding from other sources, including private donations. Over the first few months, we've really gone to work in terms of finding some outside funding, as well as finding ways to bring down the costs on some of these projects, said Ron Schneider, Director of Parks and Recreation. The board also considered funding for 3 additional park-related projects in the fiscal year 2028, but did not make a formal recommendation as they would not be included in next year's budget. One of those projects, the renovation of the Perry tennis courts at National and Bennett, would also tie into the Art Museum project. Tim Rosenberry, the city's Director of Quality of Place Initiatives, said the $75,000 allocation would tie together the various projects underway and planned near National and Bennett to create a neighborhood node. In addition to the Art Museum expansion and Perry tennis courts renovation, Rosenberry said the city is planning to make improvements to Bennett west of Glenstone Avenue and hinted at potential private developments near the intersection. This is about making this a neighborhood node that is to the Phelps Grove area what Cherry and Pickwick is to the Roundtree area, Rosenberry said, but it would have a different character because it's a different area. This article is by Jack McGee. He is the government affairs reporter at the Springfield Daily Citizen. He previously covered politics and business for the Daily Citizen. He is an MSU graduate with a Bachelor's of Science degree in journalism and a minor in political science. You can reach him at jmcgee@sgfcitizen.org or 417-837-3663.
This article is from the Springfield News-Leader. When can you start filing taxes in Missouri? What to know for 2026. Ami Jawadi, U.S. Today Network, January 21st, 2026. See how to find out what material your water line is made of. Okay, here we go. A new year means fresh goals and resolutions. but it also means another tax season is nearly upon us. This year's filing season will look a little different from previous years, as several new tax law provisions of President Donald Trump's One Big Beautiful Bill will go into effect, which could impact federal taxes, credits, and deductions. Whether you're an early filer or just want to know how long you can put it off, here's everything you need to know about filing taxes in 2026. So there's a video here with it says, "Will you marry me?" And I said yes. See couple gets engaged underwater with sharks at the Wonders of Wildlife. As a Michigan couple descended underwater into a tank full of sharks, David Belasa was ready to get down on one knee and propose to Haley Waiwera, provided by Wonders of Wildlife National Museum and Aquarium. When will the IRS start accepting 2025 tax returns? The IRS announced it will begin accepting tax returns on Monday, January 26, 2026. The agency typically begins accepting returns in late January. When is the last day to file taxes in 2026? Taxes are due on Wednesday, April 15, 2026. However, you can file an extension if necessary and have until Thursday, October 15, 2026 to submit your tax information. When are state taxes due? Missouri state tax filing deadline is Wednesday, April 15, 2026, the same day as the federal tax deadline. When can I expect my refund? If you filed your taxes online, you can expect to receive a refund in 1 month or less, in most cases. The IRS says it issues most refunds within 21 calendar days. Paper returns, however, can take 4 weeks or more. Also, keep in mind that the IRS will no longer issue tax refunds by paper checks to most individual taxpayers starting this tax season. Says tax brackets explained for 2025. There's a lady there in the picture. Learn how 2025 tax brackets works and what they mean for your income tax this season. How to check your refund. You can check the status of your federal tax refund online at irs.gov/where's my refund. What's new for taxes in 2026? Several federal tax law changes approved in 2025 could affect some taxpayers filing this season. The IRS says provisions of H.R. 1, a sweeping federal tax law passed by Congress that's supported, dubbed the One Big Beautiful Bill, include new deduction related to tips, overtime wages, and car loan interest, along with a new deduction for some older taxpayers. The IRS emphasized that there have been no changes to what counts as taxable income. Income from side jobs, freelance work, or selling goods and services remains taxable unless specifically excluded by law, regardless of whether a taxpayer receives a tax form. How to file your taxes for free. Eligible taxpayers can use the IRS free file program to prepare and file federal tax returns online at no cost.
Okay. From the Springfield News-Leader, need your flu shot? Walmart Wellness event offers no-cost vaccination. Walmart pharmacies across the United States will be offering no-cost flu shots to most people this weekend, including in Missouri. The wellness event will run from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. Saturday, January 24th, and this is part of Walmart's ongoing commitment to simplifying care, according to a news release. Most insurance coverage has a $0 copay for flu shots, the press release said. Other vaccinations such as RSV, shingles, tetanus, and more will also be available for affordable prices. Across 4,600 Walmart pharmacies nationwide, the wellness event will not only cover no-cost flu shots, but will also offer free health screenings such as blood pressure and glucose checks, complimentary vision screenings at select vision center locations, insight and support from pharmacists, and sample boxes with nutrition-forward snacks, supplements, and curated items to help customers jumpstart and sustain healthier habits through 2026. A fresh year brings fresh motivation, and the wellness event is our way of helping customers turn that motivation into meaningful action, said Kevin Host, Senior Vice President of Pharmacy at Walmart, in a press release. With convenient, trusted care and everyday wellness solutions, we're committed to meeting people where they are and supporting their health goals in practical, affordable ways. Since 2014, wellness events at Walmart have provided more than 5 million free health screenings, according to the press release. To find your nearest Walmart pharmacy in Missouri, visit walmart.com/store-directory/Mo. From the Springfield Daily Citizen, 4x4 Brewing files for bankruptcy but vows to continue operations. 4x4 taproom operations staff and events will continue to operate as normal throughout the restructuring period. 4x4 Brewing Company, LLC filed for bankruptcy in federal court January 15th, announcing a reorganization of debt, according to a company statement. The company will continue operations throughout the restructuring. 4x4, located at 2811 East Galloway Street, Suite A, filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy code in the Western District of Missouri, United States Bankruptcy Court. A hearing was held in front of Judge Brian T. Fenimore on January 20th. In addition to the Galloway location, the brewery also has a storefront in Nixa at 9003 Sawgrass Avenue. Taproom operations, staff, and events will continue to operate as normal throughout the restructuring period, according to the statement. 4x4 will keep all upcoming beer releases, community gatherings, and seasonal promotions as planned. This move is about protecting the future of 4x4, not ending it, the company said in an emailed statement. Like many small breweries, we've faced significant financial headwinds in recent years. This restructuring allows us to realign our finances, strengthen operations, and keep doing what we love, serving our community and brewing great beer. The company works with private investors to restructure the debt. 4x4 Brewing Company opened in December 2017, according to the company website. Arvest Bank is listed as the largest creditor with an unsecured claim in the brewing company, according to the filing. The company estimated to have less than 50 creditors, somewhere between $500,001 and $1 million in assets and $1 million to $10 million in liabilities, according to the bankruptcy filing. The brewing company is working with private investors to reorganize the debt, according to the emailed statement. After exploring public fundraising last year, the company decided to go with a third-party investor that is aligned with the brewery's mission. It's the right move for our staff, our customers, and our community, 4x4 said in an emailed statement. 4x4 is represented by Spencer Desai of the Desai Law Firm. This article is from Ryan Collins. He's the Business and Economic Development Reporter for the Springfield Daily Citizen. Collins graduated from Glendale High School in 2011 before studying journalism and economics at the University of Missouri-Columbia. He previously worked for Bloomberg News. Contact him at 417-849-2570 or rcollins@fjfcitizen.org.
So today's national holiday is National Pie Day. National Pie Day, day to maintain America's pie heritage, pass on the tradition of pie making, and promote America's love affair with pie. It is a day to bake and eat pies, try new recipes, and give pies to others. Charles Papazian, who later went on to found the Great American Beer Festival, started the day in 1975 in his classroom while teaching in Boulder, Colorado. He chose his birthday, January 23rd, as a day of celebration. In 1986, the American Pie Council began sponsoring the day in commemoration of the 75th anniversary of Crisco. National Pie Day is also celebrated on December 1st, but it is unknown why this date was also chosen or who chose it. Pies are made up of pastry crusts filled with sweet or savory ingredients like fruits, custards, vegetables, meats, and fish. The most common fruit pies in America are apple, blueberry, cherry, and peach, while banana cream is a favorite custard pie. Pumpkin pie is popular during autumn and winter. Key lime pie is a specialty of Florida, and Mississippi mud pie is beloved in the South. Pot pies often consist of chicken or beef with vegetables. Ancient Romans made pies and may have learned about them from the Greeks. It is likely that the Greeks came up with the pastry shells consisting of flour and water. However, shells were not edible with many early pies. Roman pies were often made in reeds, which were just made for holding fillings, not to be eaten. Early pies were almost all meat pies, and the Romans even included seafood such as mussels in their fillings. Although the first published pie recipe, written in Rome, did not have meat, but was a goat cheese and honey pie with a rye crust. Pies were in England by early 20th century, where they were known as pies. Common pies were filled with duck, magpie, pigeon, lamb, and beef, and were spiced up with currants, dates, and pepper. The crust was called a coffin. Pies were brought to the Americas by English colonists. Some pie crusts were not eaten at this time, just as had been the case in the past. Although fruit pies were likely first made in the 1500s, most of the pie recipes brought across the Atlantic Ocean were for meat pies. These pies were seasoned with nutmeg, cinnamon, pepper, and some dried fruit. As the 19th century progressed, more and more fruit pies were being made. This reflected the regional and the local foods of the country as it expanded across the continent. Pie is one of the most important American desserts today, and is such a big part of the culture that when something is seen as being very American, it is often said to be as American as apple pie. How to observe National Pie Day. There are many ways to celebrate National Pie Day, and they all involve pie. Bake a pie or pies. Try a new recipe or type or pie you have never had before. Teach someone how to bake a pie, such as a child. Have a pie party and have each guest bring a pie. Give a pie to a new neighbor, police officer, firefighter, or friend or relative. Eat some pie at one of the best pie shops in the United States. Become a member of the American Pie Council. Plan in order to take part in the National Pie Championships. Watch the film Labor Day, which was promoted by the American Pie Council. Exclusive content. Enjoying Checking Day. It takes a lot of support from the fans like you to run a free website. For exclusive content and other perks, please consider supporting us at Patreon. Thank you. The sponsor of this event does not currently have a sponsor. If you'd like to increase visibility for this event while gaining exposure for yourself or your brand, you can learn more here. Well, Springfield canceled school. Here's how the district makes the call. They got a picture in there showing the weather and the roads looking pretty bad. Snow and extremely cold temperatures are moving into the Ozarks. While most of the winter weather is expected over the weekend, while local students are not expected in classrooms, Springfield Public Schools will evaluate possible cancellations of operations for Monday, January 26. From Friday through Sunday, meteorologists are expecting up to 14 inches of snow in Springfield, with the wind chills dipping as low as 17 degrees below zero. Stephen Hall, SPS Chief Communications Officer, said the district has a team that goes out on the roads and assesses conditions in real time while communicating with the National Weather Service to remain aware of any changes to the forecast. The team then makes a recommendation to the superintendent. Cancellation calls are made on a case-by-case basis and don't necessarily have a temperature threshold to meet, Hall said. Rather, the situation is evaluated based on how temperatures and other conditions interact and what results they have on the roads. We also try to make the decision as early as possible, and so if we have the ability to make a decision on Sunday, we certainly will do that, Hall said. He noted that with the forecast being more front-loaded in the weekend, it would suggest early notifications could be possible, but a final call does depend on how winter conditions move through the area. More information on SPS cancellation policies can be found on the district's website. If SPS decides to cancel school due to inclement weather, it will be announced immediately via SPS Twitter, Facebook accounts, websites, phone call, texts, emails, and local news medias. Will students need to complete AMI packets? This school year, all SPS students, pre-K through 12th grade and including launch virtual learning, will have 2 traditional snow days until the district will switch to alternative method of instructions, or AMI, which allows students to learn at home. AMI packets are sent home with students that include resources for learning up to 6 AMI days. With no school days canceled yet this year, due to inclement weather, if SPS cancels school Monday, students will not be required to fill out homework packets. Mark Mees covers local government at the News-Leader. Have feedback, tips, or story ideas, contact her at mmieze@newsleader.com.
Okay, today's weather report. I'm sure you've heard a lot about it, but this one's by Tom Schmidt, updated this morning. Today is cold but snow-free. That means roads will be completely drivable for any last-minute errands to the grocery store or to fill up the gas tank. The snow won't begin until midnight tonight or later, so if you're a party animal on Friday nights, be sure to call it early and go home by midnight or so. The first wave of snow is from midnight tonight through about Saturday midday before tapering off in the afternoon tomorrow. The first round will be light snow and focused in southern Missouri and northern Arkansas. Snow begins again with round 2 in the late afternoon on Saturday, lasting through Sunday morning. Snow comes to an end early Sunday afternoon. Snow amounts have consistently been extremely high, with model data suggesting record high amounts in the Ozarks. That being said, it is not out of the ordinary for the models to overshoot snow totals. In fact, it is more common than not. I'm sticking with the conservative snow total messaging that we've been using at Ozarks First so far. Snow totals have increased, but are much lower than what the computer models have suggested, although some are now backing off a little. In general, there's a decent chance for 6 inches to 10 inches of snow for most of central and southern Missouri. Amounts may be lighter north of Highway 54, but an impactful snowstorm is expected regardless. Northern Arkansas may be more in line for 8 inches to 12 inches of snow, and isolated parts of southwest Missouri may climb into that category as well. Also, there will be a period of sleet in northern Arkansas on Saturday afternoon into Saturday evening. This will eat into some of the snow potential for Saturday night. Roads will likely be covered on Saturday morning. Treated roads will be manageable. Otherwise, roads will be snow-covered and hazardous at times. Schools will likely be closed on Monday and possibly Tuesday. The snow will not be gone in a few days from now, but will probably last most of next week due to extremely cold weather. This will create a cycle of melting and refreezing on the roads days after the snow ends. Temperatures will also be dangerously cold. Air temperatures will be in the single digits below 0 at times tonight through Tuesday morning. Wind chills will be -10 to -15 degrees at times as well. For your car, have blankets and coats at the ready. Fill up your gas tank. Have kitty litter or sand. Have a snow brush, an ice scraper, a flashlight, and a portable phone charger. For your home, drip faucets tonight through Tuesday. Keep cabinet doors under sinks open to allow for warm air circulation. Add extra insulation to any exposed water pipes in your home, and replace the HVAC air filter if needed so that the heater can run more efficiently. The Blind Community Thrift Store is a spacious 17,000 square foot thrift store located in Springfield, Missouri. It holds the distinction of being the first retail store worldwide to incorporate NaviLens technology, which significantly enhances accessibility for the blind, visually impaired, and non-English speaking individuals. This innovative system enables customers to navigate and shop with minimal assistance, fostering independence and confidence. The store operates as a nonprofit organization dedicated to generating funds that support the provision of adaptive technology and training for the blind and visually impaired community, often at little or no cost. Visitors can learn more about the organization and access its services by visiting the store in person at 2713 North Kansas Expressway, Springfield, Missouri, or by exploring the website at blindcommunitythriftstore.com. The website offers comprehensive information about the store's mission, services, and opportunities for community involvement, as well as details about the free store available to residents in the Springfield area.
So we're this week in review with the Himalayan Grill and Bar. The Himalayan Grill and Bar is bringing the flavors of Nepal's high altitudes down to the Ozarks by Tessa Cooper, January 2026. Republic is a rapidly growing town, and its local food scene is keeping pace. The new food and beverage concepts popping up here are so unique that they are drawing visitors from all over southwest Missouri, and the Himalaya Grill and Bar is no exception. Here you'll find a blend of authentic Nepalese, Indo-Chinese, and Indian cuisine prepared by Chef Bishmu Chaudhary, who owns and runs the restaurant alongside Gutnam Buddha Maharajan and Prem Shrestha. Together, these Nepal natives are bringing the flavors of their home country to our little corner of the Ozarks. I've had Indo-Chinese and Indian cuisine before, so I really wanted to find something that represented more of the Nepalese flavors. The menu made this a super easy feat, as the first two sections are labeled Most Iconic Nepal's Appetizers and the Most Iconic Nepal's Cuisine. There's a dish here on the picture that looks pretty tasty, and then they show on the right side a picture of the chefs. I kicked off my meal with the chat plate, which is popular street food in Nepal. Think of this as a spicy snack mixed with a medley of chopped noodles, puffed rice, and peas, all dried. It was crunchy, tangy, and spicy, and my mouth is watering right now just thinking of it. My plate was awake and ready for my second course, the Newari Kaji set. This meal offers a sample of multiple native-style foods served together on a triangular plate. This Himalayan takes on the dish features bara, which is a savory pancake made with lentils that they topped off with a fried egg. It's along with the chura, which is beaten rice, offered a nice respite amid the spicier components like the potatoes. The chicken chiola was my favorite addition as it was very garlic forward. I nearly doubled the garlic in any recipe. Before I ordered, my server asked me what spice level I wanted, and I went with medium. I found it was the perfect level to offer a fiery kick while still letting the other flavors come through. However, I was glad I ordered a glass of the sweet lassi to go with my meal, which is a soothing salted yogurt drink with just a slight hint of rose water. I would suggest ordering the mango version if you want the offers of a stronger, brighter flavor. On my next visit, I really want to try the momo, which is Nepal's take on steamed dumplings. The sea momo style is their best seller, and it's steamed and tossed in a sweet and spicy chili sauce. Once order includes 10, so I'll be bringing a friend to help split. And on a related note, the portion size here are very generous, so I had enough leftovers for lunch the next day. My husband Chandler is normally my date for these reviews, but on this occasion, my 10-month-old daughter, Florence, was along for the ride. As far as her favorites, she couldn't get enough of the man of the bara. I left the experience feeling so grateful. Even if I never make it to Nepal with my daughter, I think it's wonderful to live in a region where we can enjoy global flavors like this together on an ordinary evening.
From the Springfield News-Leader, in sports, Missouri State sweeps New Mexico State. 3 reasons behind the Bears' win over the Aggies, by Nick Coppola, originally published in Las Cruces Sun News. Early on, it looked like it was going to be a rout at the Pan American Center. New Mexico State had other plans, though. The Aggies, who are 10-8 and 3-5 in Conference USA, made things interesting by rallying from a 23-6 first half deficit to trail only 33-31 at halftime against Missouri State, who are 11-8 and 5-3 in the conference. New Mexico State guard Jamel Jones, who ended with season-high 28 points, took over during the rally, scored all 17 of his first-half points during the comeback, and ended the half with a 3-point bucket. That got the home crowd fired up, and they were just as energetic to start the second half. Things were just as close for a majority of the second half, and the game looked like it could go either way as time wound down. Neither team led by more than 6 points until the final 4 minute and 1 second of play. But it wasn't meant to be for the home team. On a night when New Mexico State celebrated its 2026 Athletics Hall of Fame, arguably one of the most stacked classes in school history, the celebrations couldn't last in an 84-75 defeat on Thursday, January 22nd at home. MSU completed its 2-game sweep over New Mexico State after winning 89-82 at its arena earlier this season on January 4th. Once again, the Bears showed off their offensive prowess with 3 players scoring in double figures, and now they're responsible for 2 of the Aggies' worst defensive performances this season by shooting percentage allowed. Thursday's game marked the 3rd and last nationally televised tilt for New Mexico State in the regular season. It's 0-3 in those games, losing to Middle Tennessee and Liberty earlier this season. Here's how the Aggies met their demise against the Bears for the second time this season. Not enough defense for New Mexico State. The Bears shot 50.9% from the field, with 6 players draining at least half of their attempts. They heated up in the second half by making 15 of their 25 shots, including 4 for 8 from three-point range. Not only is the 50.9% shooting mark by far the highest New Mexico State has allowed in a home game, with the previous high being only 42.2% against New Mexico Highlands, it is also the 3rd highest it's allowed in any game so far this season. The Bears also made 8 three-pointers, with guard Kobe Williams taking 3 of them. Williams ended with 13 points, and 2 of his teammates reached the 20s. Along Osai Bonsu, Palik III scored 26 points on 6 for 11 shooting. 12 of his points came from the free throw line. Thursday marked the second time this season the Bears have got the best of the Aggies offensively, as they shot 46.3% from the field in their first matchup on January 4th in Springfield, Missouri. Aggies also lost the battle inside. MSU out-rebounded New Mexico State 39-25, the largest margin the latter has been out-rebounded by this season. That includes getting out-rebounded 26-15 on the defensive glass. 3 Bears collected 5 or more rebounds, with forward Michael Osibonzu grabbing 9 to lead the way. Fellow forward Keith Palik III recorded 6 rebounds, and guard Antoine Burnett snagged 5 rebounds. MSU also earned 32 points in the paint compared to 26 for the Aggies. Osai Bonsu scored many points in the paint and ended with 21 in total on 8 for 12 shooting. I think they were just tougher than us, Jones said, in both games. Bears pulled away in the final minutes. The game was tied at 64-64 with 6 minutes and 52 seconds to play, and it was neck and neck between the 2 teams for the entire second half to that point. That is, until the Bears pulled away. They went on a 10-2 run from that point in the game to the 4-minute, 1-second mark and never looked back. MSU regained a double-digit lead 3 times in the final 3 minutes, with the largest coming with 39 seconds left when the visitors led 82-70. The visitors, of course, would be the Bears. The Bears went for 11 for 17 from the field to end the game and missed only 4 of their final 10 shots, with 3 of their 6 makes coming from beyond the 3-point range. The Aggies only made 3 of their final 10 shots. As far as us on the other end, the problem is when it's a close game, like 2 points, and you're not stopping somebody, then you've got to trade baskets, Hooten said. If you go a possession or 2 and they miss, and you miss, and they're not missing, all of a sudden you're down 4, then you're down 6. And that's how the article ends. In events coming up, this is from the Springfield News-Leader. Springfield Little Theater will stage the 9/11 musical Come From Away by Janice Reeser. Springfield Little Theater is set to stage the internationally acclaimed musical Come From Away at the historic Landers Theater, 311 East Walnut Street, from January 30th to February 15th. The production is expected to be one of the first community theater performances of the Broadway hit, according to an announcement from Springfield Little Theater. Come From Away tells the story of Gander, Newfoundland, a small town that welcomed 7,000 stranded airline passengers after U.S. airspace was closed following the September 11, 2001 terrorist attacks. The musical highlights the kindness, generosity, and resilience of the town's residents as they opened their homes and hearts to strangers in need. The show features folk-infused score and ensemble storytelling celebrating the power of community and human connection in the face of tragedy, according to the announcement. For tickets, go online to www.springfieldlittletheater.org or call the Landers at 417-869-1334.
We have cozy spots in Southwest Missouri from the 417. Bring some warmth to your life this winter by snuggling up to the fireplace at these local spots by Joe Joliffe, November of 2025. So the first one we have is The Workshop, 840 Finley Farms Lane, Ozarks. The number is 417-210-6644. Get a warm drink. We suggest a classic chai latte made with Hugo chai, tea, and Ozark Mountain Creamery milk, and a cuddle up in one of the workshop's cozy chairs. This spot brick fireplace is large enough to allow seating around all three sides, but if you're not lucky enough to snag a seat beside it, we can guarantee you'll still feel its warmth from across the room. Hotel Vandervoort, 305 East Walnut Street in Springfield. The number is 417-832-1515. Hotel Vandervoort offers several cozy fireplace spots, from the gas fireplace in the sitting area of the lobby to the two-way fireplace in the master suite. But our personal favorite spots in the winter are the heated igloos, Advantage Rooftop Bar, and Conservatory. While these may not have the element of fire, they provide just as much warmth with the creative approach to soaking up the Springfield winter scene. Top of the Rock, 150 Top of the Rock Road, Ridgedale. The number is 1-800-225-6343. Top of the Rock not only offers sweeping views of the Table Rock Lake, but roaring fireplaces to elevate your temperature and comfort. There are numerous rustic fireplaces to choose from, including your own private fireplace at their one-room cottage or Jack's Cabin. We like the round one inside Osage Restaurant, which offers the perfect meal with a view outside of the floor-to-ceiling windows. The next one is Farmer's Gastropub, 2620 South Glenstone Avenue, Springfield, 417-864-6994. This spot is by far the most exclusive on the list, as you have to be quite lucky or have made a very specific reservation to snag the table in front of the fireplace. The lucky ones who do get the chance to eat their meal listening to the fire crackle and feel its warmth understand what makes this spot better than any other table. The next one is the Keeter Center, 1 Opportunity Avenue, Point Lookout. The number is 417-239-1900. The Keeter Center is filled with cozy nooks that make you want to curl up with a book and blanket and spend the rest of the day there. But their most cozy, inspiring spot is beside their floor-to-ceiling stone fireplace.
From the Springfield Daily Citizen. As the Glow Center turns 30, a look back at Springfield's complicated LGBTQ+ history. Springfield is home to Missouri's oldest LGBTQ+ community center. As both the state and federal governments have advanced legislation targeting the LGBTQ+ community, the Glow Center has seen an influx of newcomers, but the Queen City's queer community has weathered similar challenges for decades. by Zoe McIntyre. There's some pictures here from left to right. There's a old black and white picture, guests at Lucille's Leopard Lounge, a post-World War II gay bar in downtown Springfield, danced together in the mid-1950s. Next, there's a lady of color in a blue sequin gown. It says the Tigress, crowned the first Miss Gay Springfield in 1976, poses for a photo. And then there's the next one is visitors at Southwest Missouri's State McDonald Arena view panels from the AIDS Memorial Quilt, which was brought to Springfield for the first time in 1991. And then the last shows people marching, community members march in a pride event on Commercial Street carrying a banner with the Glow Center's original logo. It does not have a date for that one. In depth, Springfield has historically been one of the Ozarks' main hub for commerce, education, music, and religious community. It is home to the Assemblies of God's headquarters and the birthplace of the Mother Road Route 66. For many years, a lively underground LGBTQ+ community has also been growing in Springfield. The Queen City is now home to the Glow Center, Missouri's oldest LGBTQ+ community center, which will celebrate its 30th anniversary this year. The brick-and-mortar space was once a distant dream for a small group of local lesbian and gay activists. Aaron Kitchens, now executive director of the Glow Center, said he was surprised to learn that the organization had existed in Springfield for more than 2 decades when he first moved to the city in 2017. I would think St. Louis or Kansas City would have had the oldest LGBTQ+ community center in Missouri, he said. Nestled in the Ozarks, the Springfield Metro was never on the cutting edge of the historic gay rights movement. As the city tended to progress slowly, a lack of public awareness and education on LGBTQ+ people may have helped some gay Springfieldians avoid widespread public scrutiny. However, broader cultural attitudes have always trickled down into Springfield. Kitchens expressed that oppositional rhetoric toward gay and transgender people have ramped up. Kitchens expressed that oppositional rhetoric toward gay and transgender people have ramped up in recent years, culminating with someone leaving engraved unspent rifle engraved unspent rifle cartridges on the center's doorstep last fall. It's really hard to not have that impact you, so we do see the impact of minority stress on our community. If that doesn't manifest as some sort of self-harm, it can often manifest as more risky behavior, he said, referencing substance misuse and other behaviors LGBTQ+ community have disproportionately experienced. In Kitchens' tenure, the community center has served LGBTQ+ youth who became homeless after being shunned by family. The problem is not new. Founding members of the Glow Center first became active in Springfield's efforts to shelter unhoused youth in the 1990s and early 2000s. The local LGBT+ community is experiencing many of the same challenges it faced before the turn of the century. Despite adversity, gay, lesbian, and trans Springfieldians have long found spaces to express themselves and maintain community. Rising visibility and increasing scrutiny. This is some history from the 40s and 50s. What was happening around the world? World War II, gay federal employees fired in Eisenhower administration's Lavender Scare. In Springfield, sex crime and morals investigation. LGBTQ+ scene developing with gay-friendly businesses. Where did people meet in the 40s and 50s? Rendezvous Lounge in the Colonial Hotel on Jefferson Avenue. Fox and Hound Bar in the Kentwood Arms Hotel on Kimbrough, and the Leopard Room at 504 College Street. The World War II era was a period of increasing visibility for LGBTQ+ people across the United States. The war itself brought young adults out of their hometowns, stationing them in barracks with strangers and peers. Gay soldiers developed cliques and close-knit friendship groups in many camps. Records and letters from Camp Prouder in Neosho, Missouri offer a glimpse into the lives of gay soldiers. After the war, a handful of gay-friendly businesses developed in downtown Springfield. The establishments gave queer people the ability to be part of their own scene. That scene may have been relatively unknown to many Springfieldians in the 1940s and 50s, but several criminal investigations made gay people more visible. There's a picture of a letter from the Kentwood Arms Hotel. It's hard to read, it's in cursive, but it says Harold Clark received a letter from one of his fellow soldiers who was enjoying a stay in Springfield's Kentwood Arms Hotel. The hotel's Fox and Hound bar was frequented by some gay Springfieldians. It was common for gay men in particular to be charged as sex criminals if their intimate relationships were discovered. Springfield newspapers covered a few high-profile morals investigations involving Missouri men. For example, in 1948, a longtime University of Missouri journalism professor named E.K. Johnston was charged with sodomy. The prosecutor described him as the principal member of a homosexual ring in Columbia. Johnston was freed on a $3,500 bond, or about $46,755 today, and dismissed from his position at the university. Two particular criminal investigations, which were heavily covered by Springfield newspapers, brought more attention to gays and lesbians. In one case, a Springfield mother faced kidnapping charges for attempting to separate her adult daughter from her partner and bring her home from California against her will. Later, a local businessman's death prompted a murder investigation that uncovered his secret relationship. Although the consequences could be severe for LGBTQ plus people whose sexual orientations were publicly revealed in the 40s and 50s, gay Springfieldians carved out spaces for themselves. House parties were popular because they offered safety, privacy, and exclusivity. People also flocked to a handful of downtown businesses. Popular mid-century hangout spots included the Leopard Room, the Cave, and Peg's La Petite, which was considered a bar for poets and beatniks. A collection of Polaroid photographs from the Leopard Room have survived over the years. Small city, quiet progress. As civil rights leaders made strides in racial equality during the 1960s, a grassroots homophile movement began to grow. It united both LGBTQ plus people and straight allies in advocacy for gay rights. Homophile leagues found in footholds in large U.S. cities. Kansas City, considered a central location, became the site of these leagues' convergence in 1966 for the National Planning Conference of Homophile Organizations. Meanwhile, police raids on gay-friendly bars became more commonplace. In 1969, a raid at Manhattan's Stonewall Inn tipped off several days of riots. In the 60s and 70s, what was happening around the world? Landmark Civil Rights Act, gay rights movement emergence, homophile leagues, and Stonewall riots in Springfield, very little police presence in gay-friendly businesses, and the first Miss Gay Springfield drag pageants. People in Springfield received national news about all of these events. Clark Pike, a gay black man born in Springfield in 1945, recalled in 2009 oral history. I just read that in the histories and stuff about the bars, and the people told me, but they didn't bother us during that period. That was the 60s when I was real active here in Springfield. Springfield's small size and distance from other cities shaped its social dynamics. Pike remembered hearing about race riots taking place in Arkansas while he was growing up. He commented, surprisingly, it didn't happen too much around here. Although many locals feel that tolerance is a virtue of the Ozarks, one aspect in which the region has suffered is with a lack of education on LGBTQ plus people. Randall Doning, 63, said that newspapers were his best source of information on gay and lesbian issues when he was growing up in Monette. It was difficult to put a label on being gay in the 60s and 70s because there just wasn't a lot of information that was available, he said. The local library there had the New York Times, so you could go read the New York Times, and there were things about Stonewall and events happening in San Francisco that were covered in the various newspapers that they carried. But you had to know what you were looking for, and you had to go looking for it. Before the HIV/AIDS crisis, gender and class differences created rifts in many cities' queer communities. Gay men and lesbians tended to socialize in different manners. The political lesbian movement, which grew out of a second-wave feminism, influenced some women during the 1960s and 70s to embrace lifestyles that would separate them from the men as much as possible. Lesbians who rubbed elbows with gay men in Springfield bars were usually working-class women. So-called lipstick lesbians, who tended to be wealthier, often embodied a different role and preferred meeting in private house parties. A few parks in Springfield were historically known as cruising locations for gay men seeking contact. Phelps Grove Park was the most well-known cruising spot, although evening visits could be dangerous. Home to Howling Wolves and police-busted concerts, Phelps Grove has a wild history. Wolves, failed lakes, and concert crackdowns, Phelps Grove Park has seen it all. The HIV/AIDS crisis and fiery opposition. The first clinical reports of an unexplained illness which disproportionately affected gay men and intravenous drug users came in 1981. By 1989, the AIDS Project of Springfield reported 149 cases of HIV/AIDS in the Ozarks, with 1/3 of the cases concentrated in Greene County. Tension toward the gay and lesbian community continued mounting in Springfield during the 1980s. In one event, members of an Arkansas white supremacist group attempted to burn down a gay-friendly church in Springfield. A later arson, whose perpetrator was never caught, in 1989 scorched the house of an SMSU student who was involved in the production of The Normal Heart, a play that focused on the HIV/AIDS epidemic in New York City. Despite facing backlash in the early 1980s, LGBTQ+ community members began working alongside city leaders to address the impact of HIV/AIDS. Jim House helped to establish the AIDS Project of Springfield, now the AIDS Project of the Ozarks, or the APO. House credited much of the organization's success to support of Harold Bengsch, who was then the chair of the Greene County Health Department. In a 2004 oral history, House explained that Bengsch didn't look at this as a gay issue, he looked at it as a public health issue. The Missouri Health Department reports that between 1982 and 2019, 693 people died due to AIDS in southwest Missouri. AIDS patients often faced family abandonment and lack of support networks. Volunteers in the gay community rallied in death watches to bring these people comfort in their final days. The experience of losing friends was traumatic to many people who lived through the HIV/AIDS crisis. It gets to where the fact that it's so often you just wait for who's going to come next. You just can't cry no more, Clark Pike said. Tigress got AIDS and she died. There were several. One of my backup dancers got AIDS and died. In the span of 6 years, I lost 12 people. And I was going to more funerals than I was doing shows, said the longtime Springfield drag queen Cassandra Love, who's 57. My problem was getting attached to people because I never knew if they were going to be around. I never knew if they would come home and have the talk. And there's a picture of Cassandra Love not in drag, and then there's a picture of her in drag as well. For Cassandra Love, Springfield's drag scene was in its golden age when they were performing alongside Betty Davis, the Tigress, and others. Drag was Love's full-time job for years. They estimated at the height of the local drag scene, about 22 Springfield drag queens were making their living exclusively from drag. Love is a professional stitcher who studied art. A passion for fine handmade garments sparked their interest in drag. Love's titles include Miss Gay Springfield America, Miss Gay Missouri US of A, and Miss Show Me States. Springfield queens developed close bond with each other during the 80s and 90s, but they did not always feel supported by the broader LGBTQ+ scene. There was a strong sense of community amongst the drag queens, and we always complained that the rest of the community didn't really show up when we needed them to, Love said. This strong sense of community was vital. Drag queens often faced dangerous situations such as harassment from other people. We had rednecks in pickup trucks driving by throwing beer bottles at us. We had guys with crowbars that would come by and smash our windows. This was not a safe place for us, even though we made the best of it, Love said. Springfield fails to pass a bias crime ordinance. Springfield voters' rejection of a bias crime ordinance was another event that pushed local activists to get organized. In the 1990s, what was happening? Around the world, the U.S. military's Don't Ask, Don't Tell policy begins, and the March on Washington for lesbian, gay, and bi rights. In Springfield, activists and people opposed to bias crime ordinance clash. Tri-Life, a local LGBTQ plus magazine, circulates in 7 states, and the Glow Center is established in the 90s. Where did people meet? At Martha's Vineyard on Olive Street. Reflections of Our Past on Commercial Street, later called Club 1105 in Xanadu, and the Peanut Gallery Lounge on Boonville Avenue, later called The Edge. Springfield voters' rejection of a bias crime ordinance was another event that pushed local activists to get organized. The mayor's task force on bias crime initially proposed the ordinance in 1991. It would have instituted penalties for people who committed crimes linked to malice due to the victim's status as a member of a minority group. A group called Citizens for Decent Standards, mostly made up of people who opposed the normal heart production, opposed the legislation. Paul Summers argued that the ordinance would be a smokescreen for the gay agenda. In support of the effort to penalize bias crimes, local activists formed Citizens Opposing Hatred and Bigotry, or COHAB. Businesswoman and musician Cruz Devon interviewed 2 COHAB members on This Gay Life, an LGBTQ+ focused weekly talk show that she hosted for about a year in Springfield. Several members of COHAB went on to found the Glow Center, including Linda Thomas, Jim House, and Charles Ewing. Thomas said COHAB's fight in favor of the bias crime ordinance was empowering and infuriating. The Springfield City Council rejected the bias crimes ordinance in May of 1991 after heavy backlash. The task force brought it back before the City Council again 2 years later, and council members approved it in October of 1993, but CDS led a petition to repeal it. The issue finally went before Springfield voters in February of 1994. It was a crushing defeat, with 71% of voters opposing the ordinance. CDS spent nearly twice as much on advertising as COHAB, with several local churches donating money to oppose the ordinance. I remember we were so devastated because after City Council passed this cool, wonderful thing that they were affirming and everything, we did not think it was going to be a vote of 70-30, Ewing said. The loss mobilized members of COHAB from the normal heart controversy in 1989 to the failure of the bias crimes ordinance in 1994. Springfield residents' tolerance of LGBTQ+ residents did not seem to be increasing. In fact, the word tolerance itself sparked significant controversy in 1995 when Springfield's Good Community Committee attempted to identify common core values of Springfield's residents. The committee did not identify advocacy for LGBTQ+ community as one of its goals, but did list tolerance. But conservative leaders, including Christian Coalition leader Dee Wampler, argued that the term hinted at having tolerance for homosexuals. In response to the backlash, the committee eventually swapped the word tolerance for inclusion. Glow Center leaders made a statement in 1998 by calling Springfield's first Pride celebration a tolerance fest. After voters repealed the bias crime ordinance, COHAB members continued meeting. They envisioned a community space for LGBTQ+ people to hang out, host meetings, and find support. In 1996, House learned that an acquaintance of his was trying to sell property on Commercial Street. Several COHAB leaders soon committed to contributing about $20 per month toward the lease. By October that year, the Glow Center was ready to open. With normal heart and bias crime controversies fresh in their mind, leaders tried to avoid drawing attention to the community space. They chose to abbreviate Gay and Lesbian Community Center of the Ozarks to GLO Center, making the business's purpose less obvious to passersby. News spread by word of mouth, surprising the center's founders. 200 to 300 supportive people turned up on the Glow Center's opening day. That was the shocking thing to me. When we started the Glow Center was support from the community, Ewing said. When we started the Glow Center, not only did we get support from our community, but we got support from the city. We had Rabbi Rita there, we had church people, we had people from all over the community. It was beautiful. Thomas became the Glow Center's first board president. She previously volunteered at an LGBTQ+ community center in Detroit and established a group called Blossom in Springfield to bring local lesbians together. The Glow Center seemed to continue this work toward connecting different members of the city's LGBTQ+ community. In the context I was involved in, Glow seemed pretty unifying, Thomas said. That unification was not universal. For instance, Thomas recalled that there seemed to be barriers when it came to including trans and gender non-conforming people in the leadership. Cassandra Love told the Daily Citizen that they resigned after a brief tenure on Glow Center's board of directors in the 90s. They felt that a lot of the board members didn't agree with having drag on the board. Today, 2 of the Glow Center's full-time staff members are trans. Within a month of opening, the Glow Center was hosting potlucks, game nights, and movie screenings. Community members donated books to start the center's free library. Volunteers performed all of the labor. The growth of this center meant growth for each of us as individuals involved, Thomas wrote in a 1997 newsletter. Many skills have been required, from construction to finance, from cooking to computers. Offering support to the youth was another immediate priority for the Glow Center and its leadership. Some teenagers traveled from Joplin, Stockton, West Plains, and even Arkansas for Tuesday night meetings of the youth group, originally called Galaxy. There was always a homeless youth that has been kicked out, Ewing remembered. He and Thomas became members of the Advisory Committee for Homeless Youth set up by the Mayor's Commission in 2000, around the time Rare Breed was established. In recent years, Republican legislators in Missouri have made several attempts to restrict gender-affirming care. Some trans residents of Springfield considered leaving the state in 2023 when former Missouri Attorney General Andrew Bailey released an emergency order calling for any people receiving gender-affirming care, regardless of age, to provide years of documentation justifying access to the treatment. Kitchen stated that since President Donald Trump returned to office in 2025, the Glow Center has seen an influx of trans people seeking advice on changing their legal names in case it becomes inaccessible down the line to do this. We've seen the federal government's willingness to roll back recognition on identities for trans folks, such as invalidating passports that had an X instead of an M or an F for gender markers, Kitchen said. I think the state is emboldened by the federal government's directives and rhetoric and has made it more challenging this year to change your gender marker. In September of 2025, the Glow Center canceled several events and temporarily stopped hosting its youth group in the office after Kitchens found unspent bullets carved with threatening words outside the center's door. The executive director described the community's response to the threat investigations as a jarring dichotomy. A number of first-time donors made contributions to the Glow Center after the media covered the threat, Kitchen said. At the same time, he observed a massive wave of folks in public with their full name wishing death upon our community, like in the comments section of those articles. The Glow Center is continuing to see more and more folks walking in. The young adult group for people aged 18 to 25 has grown significantly over the past year, according to the staff. Kitchens believe that more LGBTQ+ people may seek support in social outlets during periods of public backlash or challenges from the government. For instance, the Glow Center staff members were surprised when over 100 people attended an event called Gays Eating Garlic Bread in September. The free Bring Your Own Garlic Bread event, hosted at Nathaniel Green Park, was planned to help connect people with resources such as Glow Center's food pantry and volunteer organizations. I think it's those little opportunities that we have to find those ways to reach folks, Kitchen said. He estimated that based on the number of people the Glow Center serves annually, there are still LGBTQ+ people in the area who are missing services. There's probably a lot of other people who are housing insecure, couch surfing with friends, food insecure, still being dead named constantly. Those are the folks we still need to find and pull them into our community.
So from the Springfield Daily Citizen, the Kitchen celebrates new affordable housing project for seniors, homeless, veterans. Too many of our older neighbors are forced to choose between rent, food, and health care, said the Kitchen CEO, Malia Spencer. This is by Jackie Rewald, 5 hours ago. There's a picture here of them in front of community members gather for the ribbon cutting ceremony of the Maplewood Villas Phase 2 project on Thursday, January 22nd, 2026 in Springfield. Photos by Ellie Frostic. The Kitchen, Inc., along with about 50 supporters and partners, celebrated the expansion of one of its affordable housing developments with the ribbon cutting ceremony on Thursday, January 22nd. Maplewood Villas Phase 2, located at 3905 West Maple Street, is a 32-unit affordable housing development designated for low-income and formerly homeless seniors. The new units are all ground accessible. The development has 8 units dedicated to homeless veterans. A resident of the Maplewood Villas, Robert Gossard, smiles as people from the community tour her new home. The Kitchen, Inc. is a Springfield-based nonprofit organization that works to end homelessness. The Kitchen CEO, Malia Spencer, announced to the crowd that Phase 2 is not only 100% complete, but all of the units are leased. That is a clear reflection of the urgent need for safe, affordable, accessible housing in Springfield, Spencer said. Did you know that seniors are one of the fastest growing populations experiencing homelessness, instability in our community? It's a picture of Maplewood Villas Phase 2. CEO of the Kitchen, Malia Spencer, gives remarks as the ribbon cutting ceremony for Phase 2 at the Maplewood Villas housing project. And too many of our older neighbors are forced to choose between rent, food, and health care, Spencer continued. Stable housing changes that. It provides a foundation for health independence and quality of life. Access to case management and green space. Spencer explained that the housing project is part of a service-enriched community designed to not only provide housing, but to prevent a return to homelessness. All residents are provided with on-site case management and have access to green space and use of the community building and pavilion at Phase 1. Maplewood Villas Phase 1 opened in August 2023. Phase 1 is located at 550 North Duke Avenue, has 44 units of available affordable housing, both 1 and 2 bedroom units designed for low-income and formerly homeless seniors, especially veterans. Spencer went on to thank several partners in the project, including the Missouri Housing Development Commission, the City of Springfield, Bank of Missouri, Advantage Capital, Midwest Housing Equity Group, Sustainable Management, as well as her staff at the Kitchen, Inc. Sister Lorraine would be beaming with joy. She then reminded the crowd of the Kitchens, Inc. founder, Sister Lorraine Bible, who died in 2015. I know that Sister Lorraine is looking upon us and just beaming with joy, Spencer said. Moments before the ceremonial ribbon cutting, the Kitchen's mission is inspired by Sister to bring stability and purpose to people who experience homelessness. And Maplewood Villas Phase 2 is an expression of that mission. We're transforming land into homes and homes into the community. There's a picture here. Robin Goslin's home is filled with her own decorations, with some homemade and some brought from her previous home in Florida. A strong investment in people and in the community. Springfield City Councilwoman Heather Hardinger was among those who spoke at Thursday's ribbon-cutting ceremony. Hardinger thanked the Kitchen for the nonprofit's leadership and long-standing commitment to addressing homelessness and housing insecurity in our community. The Kitchen has been a trusted partner for decades, and today is another example of what's possible when compassion, vision, and persistence come together. Hardinger said, "Today is not just a ribbon cutting, it's a celebration of new homes, new beginnings, and a strong investment in people and in the community. Safe, accessible, and affordable housing is one of the most pressing needs facing cities across the country, and Springfield is no exception," she said. "This is especially true for seniors living on fixed incomes and for veterans who have served our country. Please praise residents find comfort and hope." Father Vanish Jose Theriot of Holy Trinity Catholic Church gives a blessing for the new housing project for the elderly and veterans. Father Venice Jose Theriot of Holy Trinity Catholic Church gave a blessing for the new housing project. May all who live here experience peace, safety, and joy. May this be a home filled with love, compassion, and community. He prayed in part, may your spirit dwell here, guiding hearts to kindness, generosity, and care. Bless all who envisioned, planned, and brought this development to life, especially the kitchen and its partners. May all who dwell in Maplewood Villas find comfort, friendship, and true sense of hope, he prayed. May this be a place where families grow, friendships flourish, and every heart feel valued. May their lives be filled with hope, their families strengthened in love, and their hearts nurtured by your grace. Learn more about the Kitchen Inc.'s program and affordable housing development at thekitchen.org. Jackie Rewald is a reporter at the Springfield Daily Citizen. She covers public safety, the courts, homelessness, domestic violence, and other social issues. Her office line is 417-837-3659. More about Jackie Rewald. The next from the Daily Citizen, how Springfield singers doctors turned medical parity into lasting scholarships. A Zanny musical troupe of physicians seeded a scholarship fund that has grown for decades. This is by Mike O'Brien, January 21st, 2026. There's a picture here of the doctors. A 1968 studio publicity photo with the singing doctors in surgical garb. Left to right features F.H. Dubler, Don Ghost, Fred Collier, Jim Brown, Hal Lurie, and Charles Lockhart. Their singing voices have been stilled except on their 7 recording albums and the memories of the appreciative audience of a half-century ago, but the singing doctors continue to help finance education for medical students from Southwest Missouri through a scholarship fund created by their Zanny musical comedy antics. From 1958 until 1989, the handful of Springfield's physicians who comprised the popular group performed their original songs and skits on stage throughout the Midwest and as far away as New Jersey and Arizona, usually before gatherings of other medical professions. And they appeared on national network television programming including The Today Show and I've Got a Secret. The singing doctors poked fun at themselves along with prescriptions, patients, problems, and personalities with which all doctors and nurses and medical technicians must deal. They even took a lyrical swipe at the Internal Revenue Service after winning a continuous court case with the federal agency. More about that later. Over the years, they composed a repertoire of 60 songs matching humorous words with familiar tones. Popularly numbered included Thanks for the Miseries, Hemorrhoids, Halitosis, Trust in Me, Malpractice Blues, Psoriasis, and Why Doctors Make Patients Wait. Here's a sample of typical lyrics from The Ills of Pills. Old prescriptions are lethal. Their costs we deplore. They cure many symptoms but cause many more. Our patients could remedy most of their ills if they just flush away most of our pills. The group's origin was a 1958 edition of the annual banquet of the Greene County Medical Society. Dr. Jim Brown, whose specialty was vascular surgery, was appointed chairman of the entertainment committee for the event, but he was allotted no budget. So he decided to put together a musical comedy program featuring parody songs that he'd write to perform by himself and some doctor pals. It wasn't a completely absurd idea. Brown had dabbed into writing musical skits as far as back as junior high. While attending medical school, he worked for his brothers Bill and Charlie, later two-term congressmen from the Ozarks 7th District, who were in the advertising business and also produced radio programs in Nashville. Brown helped write country music songs for his brothers' broadcast shows. The singing doctors weren't Dad's first experience on stage either. Note son, Trig Brown, who is retired from his own career as a physician and lives in the Durham Chapel Hill, North Carolina area. When he was in Korea serving in the MASH, a mobile Army surgical hospital unit, he found a guitar player who was quite good. So Dad wrote some parodies about what was happening there, and they did a show called Kisses from Korea. He sent an audio tape of it home to Mom. That was the germ of the singing doctors, I think. For the first show here, Brown recruited 2 local physicians who were trained singers, General Surgeon Dr. Charles Lockhart and dermatologist Dr. Will Woodbridge. He convinced his surgical partner, Dr. Dawn Ghost, to sign on, plus pathologist Dr. Fred Collier, internist Dr. Guy Calloway, and surgeon, acupuncturist Dr. F.T.H. Doubler. The F.T. stood for Francis Todd, but he was mostly known by nicknames Hogan or Ginger. To accompany the group, Brown lured another type of doctor, Wilfred Wimpy Adler, Ph.D., a professor of music at what was the Southwest Missouri State College, known throughout the community as an extraordinary pianist. Dad always gave Dr. Adler the credit for any musicality that came out of their efforts. Trig Brown recalls he viewed Dr. Adler as being very important in the rehearsals and in the productions themselves. Dad really felt fortunate to have him. The debut before their medical society colleagues here was a resounding success. Before the year was out, they'd been invited to perform in St. Louis at a meeting of the Missouri State Medical Society. Some officers of the American Medical Association attended that event and engaged the group to entertain at an AMA convention in Chicago that August. The Chicago appearance resulted in more than 24 invitations to entertain at future AMA gatherings throughout the country. Travel was a challenge. The doctors had busy professional and personal schedules that often made getting away for out-of-town trips difficult. Calloway and Woolbridge couldn't free up sufficient time except for occasional local performances. So internist Dr. Hal Laurie was asked to take Calloway's spot in the group's quartet called the Four Suppositories, with assistance from local music mogul E.E.C. Salmon, producer of the national network TV program Ozarks Jubilee that was originated from downtown Springfield at the time. The group cut 2 record albums before the end of the decade. Borborgian, pronounced borborygmy, a medical term for stomach rumbling and gurgling, in 1958, and the placenta preview in 1959. The group initially was billed as the Greene County Boys, but with their fame spreading as the calendar turned into the 1960s, and with promotional advice from Don Richardson, who ramroded public relations for the Ozarks Jubilee, and by then was headed PR operations at Silver Dollar City. Their formal name was changed. In 1963, a third album, Medics, was released. Sales were brisk for such nice albums. Earnings from the recordings and from performances were funneled into the Greene County Medical Society Foundation and embarked for distribution as contributions to medical schools in Missouri and as loans and scholarships to medical students from the region. Richardson engineered the 2 1965 network television appearances on NBC Today morning program and I've Got a Secret on CBS with Brown Ghost and Lockhart, not quite succeeding in stumping the panel of celebrity guesses. They then performed one of their latest compositions, Consultation, for a national audience. The secret was that the group's musical comedy, Psychic, had raised $70,000 in its first 7 years. That equals to over $720,000 in today's dollars, which had assisted 35 medical students thus far. However, that success had a downside. It attracted federal IRS auditors who claimed that despite the Medical Society's foundation non-for-profit status and the educational benefits provided by the fund, the concert appearances, fees, and album sales amounted to a commercial enterprise. Thus, said the IRS, any income from singing doctors' activities was taxable. The Medical Society Foundation paid back taxes under protest for the years 1964, 65, and 66, and the doctors largely curtailed the number of their performances rather than continue to pay what they considered to be unfair taxes. In 1970, the GCMS Foundation fought back, suing the IRS for return of those tax payments and a cessation of further tax assessments on income derived from album sales and performances by the singing doctors. A federal court trial in 1972 yielded a verdict in the foundation's favor. However, to the surprise of legal observers and dismay of the doctors, the IRS appealed. However, in 1973, the U.S. Eighth Circuit Court of Appeals affirmed the trial court's decision, and IRS was forced to return $4,958.24 in taxes paid plus interest. Brown penned a new ditty titled Internal Revenue to the playlist with lyrics facetiously imagining how he'd treat a patient from the IRS. I'd ordered him a laxative 3 times a day until you think that he would blow away. Expose him to all resistant bugs, addict him to all expensive drugs. I'd stiff his revenue internal too. With the tax burden lifted, the singing doctors revived their entertainment and fundraising activities. They'd released the 4th album, The Singing Doctors on Stage. In 1966, their 5th Singing Doctors Kept You in Stitches in 1972, and the 6th, Thanks for the Miseries in 1977. The 70s also saw them perform at the AMA's annual national convention in Atlantic City, New Jersey, in addition to many close-to-home show dates. In 1978, the group received an AMA Special Award for service to community and medical education. In 1985, Springfield Mayor George Scruggs proclaimed October 25th to be the Singers' Doctors' Day in the city, recognizing the troops' promotion of the notion laughter is the best medicine and saluting them for raising more than $300,000 to help medical students with tuition, books, and other needs. And in 1987, the Missouri Senate passed a resolution honoring the musical medicals. Along the way, a new singer had been added. Dr. Jim Cook, one of the first recipients of financial assistance from the Singing Doctors Fund, had returned his Aurora Monette Springfield route following graduation from the University of Missouri-Columbia School of Medicine to join the anesthesia practice that at the time served both Cox and St. John's, now Mercy Hospital. Cook, who today at age 88 is the sole remaining living singing doctor, had quickly become visible here, helping lead efforts to improve health-related conditions for prisoners at the Greene County Jail and to push for around-the-clock staff emergency rooms at both hospitals and professional ambulance services with trained EMTs based on the hospitals. Cook also became friends with Jim Brown, who he'd met when applying for the student loan. There's a picture of Jim Brown sitting in his chair. It was not uncommon for one of the two singing doctors to have a time conflict with a scheduled performance, and Jim asked me to become a substitute suppository, Cook recalls. Eventually, they expanded the quartet, and I became a regular in the renamed 5 suppositories. The show was fun, but the practice sessions were the most hilarious things ever. Unlike any rehearsal that I ever attended for anything else, everyone would pick on poor Will Adler. He was the only real musician there, and he tried to get us to seriously rehearse a song, but with only varying degrees of success. There was one skit in which Fred Collier played a pregnant woman. He loved that part, and he played it very well, but he died early in 1983 at the age of 62, and they made me play the role of the pregnant woman. I hated that part. That's why I grew a beard, so I could play a woman anymore. Most of the 60 sets of the parody lyrics were dreamed up by Brown, but Charles Lockhart composed about half dozen numbers. Cook chuckles with recounting that Lockhart asked each member to contribute one verse to one of his songs. My verse was, I think that I should never see a surgeon with humility, Cook says, and it would always get me booed off the stage. Cook's recollections of the hijinks at the practice sessions are echoed by Jim Brown's daughter, Mary Lou, who was 8 years old when the group first performed. We had a piano, and so they'd often rehearse at our house. They were all so wonderful to me and my younger brother, Trig. We called them Uncle Don, Uncle Hal, and so on. And Wimpy Adler was so talented and so patient with those guys. He earned his place in heaven for putting up with them. They got a picture of them all at the piano. Brown says she and Trig will listen to them practice. We could repeat all the lyrics. Words like hemorrhoids became part of our lexicon, even if we didn't understand all of them at our young age. Don Go's son John, who was retired from a career in information technology sales, now lives in the Kansas City area, says he still knows the words to many of the singing doctor songs. When we were growing up, the members of the group were around our house a lot. They'd move from house to house to house, wherever where there was a piano is in tune for Dr. Adler, who was the most phenomenal piano player I'd ever heard. It was always great to listen to. And it was even better going to one of their shows, Gall says. I love seeing my dad up there on stage, dressed in ragged hillbilly clothes, with his teeth blacked out and wearing a wig, with people laughing at him. It was fun, a lot of fun. Don Ghost's on-stage costume was in his role in a skit as Emmett, the son of Trichamonious Trigger, played by Brown, who wore an outlandish cowboy outfit. Gross recounts, Trigger would say, "My wife and I were saving up money to send Emmett to medical school, but we found out that it wasn't necessary. He's a hospital administrator now." That punchline also got us lots of laughs, especially if they were playing to an audience of doctors or nurses. Dr. Ghost and Brown usually performed the song Hemorrhoids, which John Ghost says supposedly was #1 on the medical hit parody, so to speak. It was always very, very funny. Jim Cook agrees to the Hemorrhoids was among the most popular songs in the group repertoire. Even on few occasions when we appeared before audience of the general public, they got the humor because unlike some of our songs, most everyone knew about hemorrhoids. A sample of those lyrics. There is much you can say about medicine today. We've made great strides in drugs and surgery, but there's still one disease. They can't treat us with ease. To say you can is perjury. Hemorrhoids often itch and burn. Hemorrhoids can give you that look of concern. Hemorrhoids, if you think your life is void, you should have a hemorrhoid. Now a man ain't no good and can't act like he should. If he's set of learning, it's so burning hot. If he's continuous when he walks and a frown when he talks. When he can bet there's what he's got, hemorrhoids.
Thank you for listening to the Blind Community Thrift Store Reading Service. Tune in every week, Monday through Friday, on the Blind Community Thrift Store's YouTube channel at 10 a.m. for more up-to-date news from the Springfield News-Leader, Springfield Daily Citizen, Springfield Business Journal, and 417 Magazine. Listen after we are live on the Audio Reader Network at www.reader.ku.edu. All broadcasts are played over KSMU's subcarrier airwaves at 67 kilohertz on 91.1 from 3 p.m. to 5 p.m. Monday through Friday. Contact Audio Reader Network for more information on receiving a pre-programmed radio.